Food support for millions of low-income families is at risk if the government goes into a partial shutdown. The White House said this week that people who rely on the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program, also known as WIC, could begin feeling the impacts within days of a shutdown. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack joins us now to provide some clarity. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet.
So if there is a shutdown, what would it mean for programs such as WIC? Just give us some specifics for people who are watching, who rely on that income, what they can expect if this deal is not reached.
Well, the reality is that on October 1st, many WIC recipients will see the program end. They won't be able to obtain the benefit. They won't be able to have access to infant formula, the fruits and vegetables that this particular program provides to nearly 7 million pregnant women, postpartum women, babies, and children under the age of 6 years. Nearly half of the babies born in this country participated in the WIC program, so it's a significant situation for those families who desperately want to take care of their children, desperately want to provide nutritious food, but won't be able to do so because the WIC program will stop.
So, given what's at stake here, and we've sort of outlined other areas that will be impacted, should President Biden perhaps become more involved in these negotiations, these discussions? He was able to hammer out a proposal with Kevin McCarthy, but beyond that, should the president be stepping in?
The fact is, the president did make a deal. We made a deal back in May that outlined how we were to approach the budget discussions in the fall. A deal ought to be a deal. It's certainly everywhere else in America, when you make a deal, you usually have to follow through with it. Apparently in Washington, D.C., with Republicans in the House, that's not the case. I mean, the reality is the president has been engaged and will continue to be engaged. He's put forward a budget, and the reality is that budget that he put forward was consistent with the deal that was struck in May. It's Speaker McCarthy who has to do his job. He negotiated for the job. He fought for the job. He needs to do the job, and he needs to get control of his caucus so that we can get a budget or a continuing resolution that will allow the 7 million folks who rely on WIC and many, many other programs to be able to continue.
Speaking of those other programs, Mr. Secretary, specifically as it relates to agriculture, what other individuals or groups could be affected if this government shutdown happens?
Farmers are going to be impacted because they won't be able to get marketing assistance loans. Right now, this is a time when farmers try to lock in a price and lock in a profit. When the Farm Service Agency office in their county is not open, they're not able to do so, which means that there may be lost profit and lost opportunity. It's not just farmers, it's also those who are seeking to purchase homes in rural America through the United States Department of Agriculture. They may not be able to get the loan guarantee or the direct loan, which means they may lose the offer and the opportunity to purchase the home of their dreams. That impacts and affects the rural economy. It's folks who want to take a vacation or a trip to a national forest to enjoy the beauty of that scenery. 195 million acres of forest and grasslands. Those forests will be shut down. Services will not be provided. The rural economy that relies on tourism dollars will be impacted and affected by the shutdown. And the list goes on. Communities that are seeking assistance for water projects, the expansion of broadband, the opportunity to build community centers, daycare centers, child care centers, all of that will be delayed or compromised by virtue of a shutdown that's unnecessary if Republicans in the House would simply follow the deal that they struck, a majority of whom voted for this deal back in May. A majority of the House Democrats voted for it, and a majority of the Senate voted for it, which is why President Biden was in a position to sign it. It seems to me that the simple process here is to follow the deal, do the deal.
As you sort of go through the widespread impacts, one of the things that I'm hearing over and over again is the impacts on rural America. As you know, 1 in 5 Americans live in rural America. And while the Biden administration has invested a lot of money, there sometimes seems to be a bit of a disconnect. The last 2 presidential elections swung. Rural America voted for Republicans. What is President Biden not doing, or how is he not getting the message across to rural America?
Well, it's not President Biden. We obviously have to continue at the Department of Agriculture to make sure that people are aware of what this administration has done. an historic investment in rural America, the expansion of broadband, new infrastructure in terms of roads, bridges that are now being built and fixed, an opportunity for us to invest in a new several sources of income for small and mid-sized farming operations, to begin to slow down the acceleration of farms that are now being consolidated. Small and mid-sized producers have a very difficult time, and we're trying to create new revenue sources for them, building new processing facilities, using federal procurement dollars to support those small and mid-sized producers, making sure that we are creating opportunities to reduce the cost of energy on the farm and fertilizer. Working to create new industrial opportunities through sustainable aviation fuel and other agricultural waste to bioproduct manufacturing that will create rural jobs. You know, the reality is we're out there talking about this, and I think as we are talking about it, people realize that this administration cares deeply about the men and women and families who live, work, and raise their families in rural places.
All right, Secretary Tom Vilsack, thank you very much.